So we're going to move on to our next session with how will mobile transform esports with Nick Contino from Ryu Games. He was he's responsible for outreach, inbound marketing, product sales, and developer support. Serves as a liaison to developers. God, there doesn't mean much time left in the day to do anything else. The amount of work that Nick does in the company. He'll probably give us a bit more explanation about Ryu, and we'll kick off. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you so much, David. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. Speaking of time, it sounds like your guys' day is wrapping up over there, but I'm in California, so my day is just starting. So I'm fresh as a daisy here. So good to be here. Thank you all for coming. Excited to tell you about mobile esports and how it's going to change things. So let me go ahead and just pull up my notes here. But while I do that, I do want to just kind of say that it's so cool, and I'm sure a lot of people can sympathize with this, when you're growing up playing video games and never thinking that it would be an option to speak about them professionally. It's very exciting that I'm able to do this. So thank you for having me. And I guess my notes just totally disappeared, which is super cool. Just give me a moment here. It's there. There we go. All right, I should probably also share my screen. You see, they had me in the green room to make sure I didn't do this. All right. So, how mobile will transform esports. This is my presentation. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking about a couple of things. First off, that the mobile gaming industry, the skill gaming industry is blowing up right now. It's a multi-billion-dollar gross marketplace value in 2021, and it's continuing to grow. Today, these skill games are severely limited in terms of genre, and they really only exist currently on mobile and in the casino category. There's also a massive esports audience out there that has no exposure to skill gaming monetization, an audience of 500 million gamers and growing that we're not even touching yet. And the first few AAA publishers that connect the dots and enter this space with a quality game and social focus, they're going to be the ones to claim this audience. And they're going to be the ones to change the face of esports as a whole. Before I move on and get into the meat of things, I want to clarify the phrase mobile skill gaming. Plenty of games and mobile games require skill, but I'm referring specifically to games monetized with cash tournaments when I use that phrase today. So let's get into it. Mobile esports versus esports. Both are games of skill. They're played at low and high levels. That means you got to be good at it. I personally am ranked Iron in Valorant, which is embarrassingly the lowest that you can possibly be. But on the other hand, you have your Radiant rank Valorant players who not only could they beat me up and down, they're a professional skill level, right? So you got your low and high ranked players. And when you get to that high level of play, tournament winners can start winning cash prizes, right? You see that picture on the right. This is really the draw of traditional esports, those cash prizes. And if you were to walk into a room of 12-year-olds, excuse me, let me put my dog down. You walk into a room of 12-year-olds, ask them what they want to be when they grow up. I think a good portion of them might say they want to be a professional Fortnite player. And there's a lot of money being thrown around for sure. Rainbow Six gave out $3 million in prizes at their recent invitational. PUBG gave $7 million. And of course, the Mac Daddy of them all, the 2019 Dota International, gave $34 million in prizes. It's big numbers and exciting and fun to watch, but cash tournaments are unavailable for most gamers. 99.99% of esports gamers, they're not playing for money. They're playing for fun or hoping they'll eventually play for money. Mobile skill games, on the other hand, the kind that my company, Ryu Games, produces, we level the playing field. allowing users of all skill levels, low and high, the opportunity to compete with users at a similar skill level. Not only is this a more accessible model, it's more lucrative. So how do they work? Big question. How do we generate revenue? There's no ads, there's no IAPs. Mobile skill games generate revenue from cash tournament entry fees. 2 or more users, emphasis on the or more, pay an entry fee to compete in a game of skill. In this particular example, the example is solitaire, but there's a bunch of games. Both players get the exact same solitaire board and they play asynchronously for a high score. In the case of large events, a limitless number of participants can enter the tournament. The winner of the match takes home a cash prize, in this case, $5, and we take a portion of those entry fees, $1. Games with this monetization structure are blowing up. They're huge right now. Take a look at your phone, open up your phone, go to the casino category in the App Store. You'll see the top charts are mostly skill games. Out of the top 10, 7 are mobile skill games. And all of these games generate revenue with the model that I just described. They're so popular that the casino category is now mostly synonymous with the mobile skill gaming genre. The companies that are producing these games, like ours, are growing quickly. A mobile skill gaming operator recently went public and has a $7 billion market cap. But the biggest obstacle in the way of further growth is the casino category itself that we currently inhabit. So what's good about the casino category? Well, a couple of things. Number one, casino games are a familiar environment where people are used to putting money on games. You walk into a casino, you play a game of blackjack, you got to pay money to do that. So when you see a skill blackjack game in the casino category in the App Store, you're reminded of regular blackjack, where you pay to play. It's an easy jump to make that users want to spend money there. Number two, casino cash gaming titles are easy to execute asynchronously. That means that users compete independently within a certain time frame, usually 24 hours, and compare scores to determine a winner. And there's a lot of advantages to this model because there's no wait time to play. You can play on your own time. You need less users overall. 2 big things. And all mobile skill games, all successful mobile skill games, the ones that you see in the top charts, those are all built for asynchronous play. Synchronous games, on the other hand, require significantly more concurrent users. Traditional esports titles like Fortnite, League of Legends, they're almost exclusively synchronous. They have this critical mass of players that you can get 100 people together in a room, and it's really exciting. But like I said, the current mobile skill game titles are just not built for this kind of experience. There are a few pilot games out there, but the code has not yet been cracked. So to break from this casino asynchronous mold, the industry needs a AAA, well-known publisher to validate this monetization structure. And who would be in a good position? Who would be the first one to jump in the fray? Probably someone who can leverage the current skill gaming audience and appeal to a larger mobile audience. Start making that jump into the traditional esports world. Think of a big publisher. I want you to think of one in your head right now. What do you think I'm going to say? You got it, King and Candy Crush. The audiences overlap pretty darn well. Gender and age are pretty similar. Gen X, majority female. So we can make an assumption that a skill gaming initiative in Candy Crush would perform pretty well. So in this next slide, we're going to consider a hypothetical where King puts Candy Crush or puts cash tournaments into Candy Crush. In this event, there's going to be a $2 entry fee with unlimited participants. A variable cash prize is going to be split among the top scorers. This is a pretty standard occurrence in the current crop of mobile skill games. In Q1 of 2021, we saw that there are about 500 million monthly active users in Candy Crush. So how many of those monthly active users would be interested in a cash tournament. Skill games tend to see a 9% conversion rate when it comes to paying users. So we can assume that because Candy Crush has a pretty similar audience, that they would eventually be able to see a similar conversion rate. So if King did this and ran this tournament every other week for a year, the revenue would match what they're currently making, which is $1.2 billion a year. It's pretty impressive and a pretty huge opportunity. So the big question, so obvious, why haven't they done this? I hear you. Number one, there's a couple challenges in terms of skill gaming that are very different from what you see in the free-to-play world. I won't bore you with the specifics of how it works and what it is, but know that your experts, your current experts in traditional mobile monetization, free-to-play experts, they're a fish out of water when it comes to skill gaming. It's entirely different KPIs, different UA, different game design, the game scale differently. It's very, very different. So that's number one. Number two, Google Play doesn't even allow mobile skill games on their store yet. Users have to sideload with an APK. So it's unique challenges. They're manageable, but take it from me, if a publisher wants to enter the space, they'll want to do it with an expert. And historically, publishers have done that. When they're looking to enter the space, they'll work with a pre-existing company. Another reason that publishers have not quite gotten into this space yet is because mobile skill gaming has only recently begun to boom. We have our sister industries, daily fantasy sports, sports gambling. There are other industries out there that you could look at in a similar way to real money gaming, using similar revenue models. The Supreme Court recently ruled that sports gambling should be decided by the states. Big decision, big implications for the industry. Daily fantasy sports, companies are going public, and they're becoming slowly more publicly accessible. And countries around the world are beginning to loosen gambling restrictions. India, for example, fantasy sports apps are making huge amounts of money. So this is all to say that the soil for real money gaming has quickly become fertile, and it's now ripe for the taking. And once a AAA publisher makes an entrance into the space, they stand to claim a $1 billion audience that has not yet been introduced to cash tournament monetization. So you've got your traditional esports titles, your Call of Duties, your League of Legends, your Fortnites, PUBGs, etc. We know these. These are predominantly watched and played by men. Now, that's not to say there aren't female gamers out there playing, watching, part of the ecosystem. This is just the audience. And it's entirely different from what the female audience, or excuse me, for the mobile audience, that is largely female, 55%, majority female. These are games, Match 3, Merge, Idle. This is mobile gaming. We know these as well. There's not much overlap with traditional esports. And it makes sense. We all know the mom who spends her evenings playing Words with Friends, but you never hear your Valorant friends talk about casual mobile games. And in a mobile skill game, which this audience is inclusive of, any gamer can compete for cash prizes. And we generate revenue every time that happens. So how do we take cash tournaments that currently only even a small piece of the mobile audience has access to, and bring it to this traditional esports audience? It's a big question. It can't just be any game. It has to be quality, it has to be good. Gamers have a nose for that. You know that. And it also has to have a social backbone. Like I said, this audience is picky and they like social games. 66% of players make friends while playing. So how do we make a good game with a social backbone? Does it matter in the first place? Yes, it does matter. Some people might say, actually, the quality isn't as important because some people really just want to play these games for cash and they don't really care what it looks like or how it feels. It's the thrill of the cash prize that drives it all. And that's how daily fantasy sports operators feel. One of the founders of FanDuel, Nigel Eccles, talked about how it's all about spending money on ads. It's all about that big cash bonus. There's no social elements. Quality is not the priority. But on the other hand, gamers, we know, will pay more money for a good game. They're also more likely to play multiplayer games. And this code has not yet been cracked in skill gaming. Quality with multiplayer. At Ryu Games, we're trying to build that. So with all that said, I hope you can see my main point today. Cash tournament monetization is a lucrative business that currently has a limited audience due to scale, genre, and audience limitations. It is begging to be broken out of the casino genre and given to a wider audience. A warning, this is not an opportunity that will last. Take daily fantasy sports. Try and name someone that does it other than FanDuel and DraftKings. You can't. Well, you could. They technically are out there. But FanDuel and DraftKings control a majority of the market share. And it's incredibly expensive and difficult to enter the space because they were there first. They claim that market share, and that makes them immovable. The same could probably be said for the first few traditional AAA publishers who invest in and enter the skill gaming space. So once this happens, traditional esports operators, your Call of Duties, your Valorants, they're going to adopt this as well. Can you imagine a weekly or daily PUBG cash tournament for all skill levels, where, say, I can log onto my computer, enter the join queue, pay $2, and I stand to win, say, $90 if I win? How exciting is that? That makes it so much more thrilling. We've all seen those videos on Twitch of the people, whether the last 3 or 2 people in Call of Duty Warzone. It's so exciting. But can you imagine if a cash prize is attached to that? Or a weekly Rocket League cash tournament? It's huge. So one day, I believe, I know that cash tournaments will be ubiquitous in the casino genre, in the larger mobile genres, and in traditional esports. And we will ask ourselves why we did not do this sooner. Thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time to listen here. Happy to answer any questions.
Actually, Nick, we're sort of running a little on time, but a couple of questions that there was quite a few questions asked as such. I just want to pick one that I know will be probably something you get asked quite a bit, is about child protection from using these and getting involved in these with because game is sort of synonymous there. If this is sort of like the area that's growth, what about protection in that sort of space?
It's very important. It's very important, and it's absolutely something on the forefront that informs everything we do. Currently, the skill gaming industry is unregulated. It is unregulated. It is not subject to the laws that, say, gambling operators are subject to. So really, when it comes to what we do, we're electing to do ID verification, right? These are the kind of things that eventually are going to become regulated. And when that does happen, we're going to be there on the forefront advocating for reasonable legislation. But in the meantime, there are some measures in place. Probably the most obvious one being that all of the games are 17 plus on the App Store.
Actually, an interesting one, because you did talk about it, and I think you're talking about existing games as such, and some example, Candy Crush, and how much they're used, and widening the audience where there's a sort of stigma in that space about Candy Crush just being played mainly by females. Do you think by bringing in this sort of cash sort of tournament or prize money type thing will sort of change some of that in image?
It's possible. This is all uncharted territory, so I think it's entirely possible. I personally think that the actual genre of the game itself will probably inform the audience more than anything, because I don't necessarily think that winning cash is something that one gender or type of person prefers over another. I think it's like exciting for everyone. So the cash tournaments, I think, will probably be more like a cherry on top of pre-existing games rather than an entirely transformative element.
We're going to have to leave it there. Nick, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really, really interesting. I've been a big fan of mobile games for a long time and believe it's going to be sort of one of the big areas as such, because it's just so many people playing. And also when we're talking about, you know, in the Middle East, etc., it's just mobile gaming is what it's all about. So, you know, the opportunities are huge, and that's also why we have Pocket Gamer Connects as such. So, you know, great for the talk. If anyone wants to go into Discord, and I'm sure that there's got questions there, Nick will be very happy to answer them. But thank you very much, Tom. And you're still fresh as a daisy because your day's only just starting in California, isn't it? So that's fantastic. I did pick up, I like the idea of mobile skill games, and I hadn't sort of really thought about skill games because I always thought that, to me, when I play, every game's skills required, and I'm not always that good at it. But
Hey, you and me both. You and me both.
Yeah,
that's why I do the business side and not the playing side.
Yeah, and then the definition of monetizing for cash tournaments, I think, is really interesting as well. So, as I say, once again, thank you very much from all the way over there in the sunshine in California. Actually, it's been pretty hot there, hasn't it? So,
luckily, San Francisco has been mostly immune from that, but you know, you go 2 miles in south, and yeah, it's pretty hot.